Why do I feel numb? You're not sad, you're not depressed, but you don't really feel anything either. You can function, work, talk to people, and even laugh at the right moments, and yet something inside feels flat, muted, distant. It's not pain, it's not crisis, it's more like emotional silence. You don't feel deeply happy, but you don't feel deeply sad either. It's as if your emotions are there, but behind glass. What makes this feeling so confusing is that nothing is obviously wrong. There's no clear breakdown, no dramatic conflict, no single moment you can point to and say, that's when it started. From the outside, your life may look stable, functional, even fine. And that's exactly why this state is so hard to explain, both to others and to yourself. You go through the motions. You show up, you do what's expected, but something essential feels missing. Many people describe this as feeling disconnected from their own life, like you're present, but not fully inside the experience, watching yourself live from a distance. Psychologists consider emotional numbness one of the most common emotional states today, and also one of the most misunderstood. And the reason it's misunderstood is simple. Different psychological perspectives explain this feeling in completely different ways. Some see numbness as protection, others see it as avoidance. And which explanation applies to you matters, because numbness is not a personality trait, and it's not a permanent state. It's a signal. And to understand that signal, we need to look at this experience from two very different psychological angles. From one psychological perspective, emotional numbness is not a problem to fix. It's a response to something that lasted too long. Psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk has spent decades studying how the body reacts to overwhelming experiences, and according to this view, numbness appears when the nervous system has been under constant pressure, not always because of one big traumatic event, often because of long-term stress, emotional overload, or situations where feeling deeply was not safe. When emotions become too intense, too frequent, or too unpredictable, the nervous system adapts. It learns that shutting things down is safer than staying fully open. So emotions don't disappear, they get pushed into the background. This process doesn't happen consciously. You don't decide to feel less, your body does it automatically without asking. Van der Kolk explains that emotional numbness is not the absence of emotion, but the result of too much emotion for too long. When the system is overwhelmed, it chooses survival over sensation. From this perspective, numbness is not weakness. It's not failure. It's not something broken inside you. It's protection. Your body learned that staying emotionally distant reduced pain, stress, or danger. And once that pattern is learned, it doesn't disappear on its own. That's why people often say, I don't know why I feel this way, nothing bad is happening anymore. The body doesn't respond to logic, it responds to patterns. And even when life becomes safer, calmer, or more stable, the nervous system may still behave as if the threat hasn't fully passed. Understanding this changes the way numbness feels. It removes shame, it removes self-blame, because from this angle, numbness means one simple thing. Your system did what it had to do to keep you going. But protection comes with a cost. And this is where another psychological perspective looks at the same experience and asks a very different question. Another psychological perspective looks at emotional numbness from a very different angle, not through the body, but through meaning, choice, and long-term avoidance. Clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson often describes numbness not as protection, but as a consequence of disengagement from life. From this view, numbness doesn't come from feeling too much. It comes from avoiding what feels difficult for too long, avoiding uncomfortable conversations, avoiding responsibility, avoiding decisions that would force change, avoiding the truth about what is no longer working. According to this perspective, when you consistently suppress what feels wrong, you don't just avoid pain, you slowly lose access to meaning. Peterson argues that a meaningful life requires emotional engagement, including negative emotions, fear, guilt, disappointment, uncertainty. These are not flaws. They are signals that guide action. When you refuse to feel them, when you numb yourself to avoid discomfort, you don't create peace. You create emotional flatness. From this angle, numbness is not the body trying to survive. It's the psyche choosing safety over engagement. Life continues, but on autopilot. And over time, that disengagement feels easier than honesty, easier than confrontation, easier than change. But it also creates distance. from other people, and from yourself. This is where the two perspectives meet. Sometimes numbness is the body saying, "This was too much," and sometimes it's the mind saying, "I've been avoiding myself for too long." The mistake is thinking it can only be one or the other. For some people, numbness begins as protection and turns into avoidance. For others, avoidance slowly trains the nervous system to shut down. The important question is not which explanation is correct. The important question is, which one applies to me right now? Because numbness is not a personality trait, it's not a life sentence, it's a signal, and signals are meant to be understood, not ignored. If you feel numb, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means something in you adapted, or disconnected, or learned to stay quiet. And understanding why that happened is the first real step toward feeling again. So how do you find your way back? You don't need to force yourself to feel everything at once. That would only bring the walls back up. Instead, start small. Create safety. Notice the simple things: the warmth of your coffee, the texture of a chair, the sound of a loved one's voice. Show your nervous system that the war is over, and slowly, the glass wall will start to melt. You are not empty inside. You are just waiting to be safe enough to bloom again. Take your time. Healing is a journey, not a switch. See you in the next video.